Bruchim Habaim. I'm Rabbi Cantor Ann Heath, and this is Jewish Traditions Across the Centuries. The tradition we're discussing today is a rather recent one, a very deep and unfortunate, painful one. It's all about the Holocaust. Several of the books we'll speak of today concern the Holocaust Martyrs and Heroes Remembrance Authority, Yad Vashem, situated in Jerusalem, Israel. But before we get to specific books, let's mention how our congregation chooses to remember this very difficult occurrence. We have children, just like other communities do, who have difficulty understanding major world events, especially those that are so tragic. We try to bring our education down to a personal level, and our bar and bat mitzvah students, our 7th graders, are each paired with a young person who perished in the Holocaust through a program called Remember Us. We were here yesterday evening during this National Week of Remembrance in April, where our students lit candles in memory not only of the 6 million Jews who perished, but also specifically in memory of each child whom they were remembering, and also the other millions from other communities who perished based upon their political or social beliefs, their background, their ethnic heritage, those who rescued Jews, the many people who were killed in the war. Over 20 million people perished in World War II. The first book I'd like to speak to you about today to read is entitled The Children We Remember by Hannah Byers Abels. The photographs included are from the archives of Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Martyrs and Heroes Remembrance Authority in Jerusalem, Israel. Because this commemoration of the Holocaust is so new, only 70 years old, the traditions for remembering it are varied across communities. This is one way where you can choose to work with us, to learn about what happened, and then to commit yourself to never again. This book is dedicated to the children whose lives ended during the Holocaust, and to the photographers, known and unknown, who risked their lives to tell the story. As we begin this book, we learn about the time before the Nazis. Some children lived in towns like this. You can see, like in many towns you know, the houses are close together. There are poles with electric lights. Notice the clock on the large stand outside the door. It looks like down the street there might even be trolley tracks. Men and women are walking up and down the street. It doesn't look like there's a lot of grass. It's mainly sidewalks. And there are lots of front doors really close together. Lots and lots of towns in Europe looked like this before World War II, before the Nazis came. Before the Nazis came, children went to school like this. See how everyone is sitting so closely together? It looks like, if you look carefully, that the girls are on one side and the boys are on the other. And the sign in the back is written with Hebrew letters, not English. On the right-hand side, you'll see that here's a beautiful picture of boys and fathers praying together in a synagogue. In those days, it was generally the men who worshiped together and women who did their work at home. Not always, but this picture shows a very traditional role. Before the Nazis, students played with their friends. Looks like some of these students are playing, what do you think, marbles, jacks? I think it was way before phone time or any kind of electronic toys, but they played with their friends. There's a circle game going on in the top picture. And down on the bottom, it looks like maybe there are boats, a puddle of water, a little place where boats can go back and forth, playing in the water, playing in the mud. There's even a child who sat alone. We don't always play with our friends. Sometimes we sit and just enjoy ourselves. Life was really pretty ordinary, life like you would understand it before the Nazis came. When the Nazis came, they made all the Jewish children sew patches on their clothes. Even though these pictures are in black and white, the patches were gold and they had the word Jude on them, which is German for Jew. You'll see on the chest right here, all the boys and girls are wearing this patch that says Jude, Jew. Their friends were told not to play with them anymore. Their parents couldn't be friends anymore. Here they are sitting in class. You'll notice they all look just like regular students in an old-fashioned classroom, but they have the Jude, the orange, the gold star on their chest. If you owned a Jewish store in those days, it was closed. People were told not to shop there anymore, and you couldn't run your business. Synagogues, the houses of worship where Jews went to pray, were burned. It got worse. You see pictures here, families leaving, carrying everything. They're not going on a trip or a vacation. Their homes were taken away. Moms are carrying all they can, including their children, pushing baby carriages, and you'll see on their chests the stars that say Jude, identifying them as Jews. You can't go that far when you're walking by foot. There were families forced to live in the street, doing the best they could to take care of one another. When children were cold, they wrapped themselves in rags. There are lots of things that we throw away, but if you're really cold, it doesn't make any difference whether the cloth or the old shoe is dirty or messy. If you can wrap it around yourself to keep yourself warm, this is what it took for these children. They wrapped themselves in rags. Children were hungry. They did share the food that they had, and bigger children took care of their younger brothers and sisters. Children also helped the old and the sick. You know how hard it is to walk long distances as a young person, as a child. Think about someone old that you might know and how hard it would be for them to be thrown out of their home and to walk and walk and walk. These people needed the help, and children helped them. They helped older people, they helped the sick, and they helped one another. The Nazis hated the children because they were Jews. As simple as that. There's a lot more behind it that you'll learn if you're a young person when you get older. But the Nazis hated the children because they were Jews. Sometimes they took them away from their families and sent them far from home. Boys and girls never saw their moms and dads again, never had dinner together, never went to the synagogue to pray, never went to school, never saw their entire family again. It was a tragic, hard time. Sometimes children were put to death. I know it's hard to think about someone being shot, someone being killed, but when we learn about the past, we can't learn only about the things that are happy and joyful. We also have to learn our history, even if it happened far away, to remind us that we have to do better now and in the future in our countries. Here are some pictures of children who were killed by the Nazis. We know her name. Her name is Hannah. Hannah is an old-fashioned version of the name Hannah. Many girls today are named Hannah. An English version is Anne. That's my first name. Her name is Hannah. Even though the picture is old-fashioned, she's just an ordinary girl with the gold star on her chest that says Jude, that she's a Jew. Here's her brother. We don't even know his name. He's wearing a winter coat, at least he had one, and also the star that says Jude, a Jew. What is a Jew, you might ask? A Jew is a person whose religion is Judaism. From the Jewish people, historical times, all the way back to the times of the Hebrew Bible and the Old Testament. Here's a really small boy. His name is Willie. He died in the Holocaust. And there are more pictures of children whom we don't even know their names. We just know that once they lived, and they are no longer with us. Killed in the Holocaust, killed by the Nazis, only because they were Jews. As awful as this story is, there are children who survived. Not all of the Jewish children died, There are happy faces even after very difficult times. How did they survive? Lots of different ways, but some of them escaped to Israel and other countries. Some were rescued by Christian families. There were many Christian families who did not agree with what the Nazis were doing to the Jews and worked very hard at great peril to their lives to save children and to save families and make sure they didn't die. And sometimes those families, those Christian families, they themselves were killed. It was a dark and tragic time. Others hid in the forest and lived outdoors. You may like going to summer camp, but summer camp year-round when it's cold and snowy, think of the winter we just had, could be pretty difficult, but they survived. It was better than being in a camp hidden away. There were some Jewish children who were rescued by priests and monks and nuns, and they pretended not to be Jewish. They pretended to be Catholic, and many good Christians helped save Jewish children. The children who survived are grown now. Some have children of their own. They live in towns like yours, go to schools like you, or play with their friends and sit alone, just like the children that we remember. While this book is very historical with its photos, it tells a broad story. But there are very specific stories about particular towns and particular families. The second book I'm sharing with you today is called The Whispering Town. It's by Jennifer Elfgren and illustrated by Fabio Santomauro. This is based on a true story in a Danish town. "There are new friends in the cellar, Annette," Mama said when I woke up. "Time to take breakfast down to them." Can you imagine new friends in the cellar? How would you get new friends down in the cellar, in the basement, out in the garage? Wow, Annette's taking food down to them. Let's see what happens when she gets down there. She doesn't go down right away. Here's what she says. She says, "I paused at the top of the stairs. The cellar scared me because it was dark. But the whispering voices gave me courage. When I reached the bottom, I entered the secret room where we hid Danish Jews from the Nazis. A woman and her son sat on a cot. If you look at the picture, you'll see they're sitting in the dark, and they look worried. I don't know about you, but I would be worried hiding in the basement in the dark, waiting for someone to bring me food. As the girl comes down the stairs, she says, 'Hi, I'm Annette.' As she held out the basket, she says, 'Mama made you breakfast.' The boy took the basket and handed his mother a roll and a soft-boiled egg and said, 'I'm Carl.' And the mama said, 'We thank you.' Back upstairs, I sat down to my own breakfast. 'How long will our new friends stay?' I asked. 2 nights, said Papa. 'On the 3rd night, a boat will take them to Sweden.' 'While they're here, we'll need more bread,' Mama said. So what do we know so far? We know that this girl and her family are living in Denmark, and the Jews who are hiding in the basement to be kept safe are a mama and a boy named Carl, and they're Danish. But to be safe, they need to go across the water on a boat to get to the country of Sweden. Sweden was a country where the Nazis had not invaded during World War II. It was a place of safety, and the Danes worked very hard to send their Jews to a safe place. After breakfast, I walked to the bakery. 'We have new friends,' I whispered to the baker. 'Here is extra,' he whispered back, handing me a bulging bag. 'Stay safe.' And so I did. On the way home, I saw Nazi soldiers knock on the door across the street. Even though they had been in my town for a long time, my stomach still knotted when I saw them. If you look at the picture, you can see that these Nazi soldiers, how do we know they're Nazi soldiers? Because they have a Nazi armband, red with a black swastika, that funny kind of spider shape. and one of them has a gun, and he's pointing it at the woman who's opened the door. You can imagine she's very scared about what they're doing, about what they're looking for. And Annette, when she went to the store, she didn't go to the grocery store. There weren't very many grocery stores in those days in small towns that sold everything. She went to the bakery, the place that sold bread. And the man there was helping hide the Danish Jews. So she walks home and she's really worried and she says, "Mama, Papa, soldiers across the street," I said when I came home. Mama tapped 3 times on the cellar door to warn our friends to be quiet. Mama's really being careful and Papa's looking out the window. And after the soldiers left, Papa looked up at the sky, at the cloudy sky. He shook his head. He was worried. "No moon tonight," he said. "It will be difficult for our friends to find the harbor in the darkness." Imagine no streetlights and trying to make your way from one house to the other, all the way down to the edge of the water, and get onto the boat without falling in. The next day, I took food to the cellar again. Annette says, "I let the whispering voices guide me down the stairs," because not only was it dark in the town, it was dark in the cellar. "This will help the times pass," I said, handing Carl some library books. He took them and smiled. "I love to read." "Mama, I need new books," I said when I came upstairs. And so the mama and Carl, who were hiding downstairs, had a chance to read books, while Annette and her mama upstairs were helping keep them safe. Annette says, "After breakfast, I walked to the library." "We have new friends," I whispered to the librarian. "Be careful," she whispered back, handing me extra books. On the way home, I saw Nazi soldiers knock on our other neighbor's door. "Mama, Papa, soldiers next door," I said when I came in the house. Mama tapped 3 times on the cellar door. After the soldiers left, Papa looked up at the cloudy sky. He shook his head. "No moon again tonight. Maybe the clouds will clear tomorrow." Everyone must be getting worried about how will they get Mama and Carl, the family downstairs, safely to the harbor. Again the next morning, Annette says, I let the whispering voices guide me down the dark stairs. As Carl reached into the breakfast basket, a heart-shaped stone fell to the floor. Carl picked it up. "I found this with my papa the last time we walked on the beach," he said. "It's beautiful," I said. And what we don't hear, we just have to imagine in this story, that if Carl and his mama are hiding downstairs in Annette's house, something must have happened to his father. And his father gave him this as a memento, and he's keeping it very safe. Upstairs again, Papa says, "Annette, we need more eggs." And so Annette walked to the farm. "We have new friends," I whispered to the farmer. "Wish them well," he whispered back, giving me extra eggs. On my way home, I saw Nazi soldiers heading for our house. I cut across the alley and raced through our back door. Can you imagine how worried she was? These Nazi soldiers do not look friendly and they're so scary. And she gets in and she goes, "Mama, Papa, the soldiers are coming to our house." But they didn't answer me. No one was home. And this time I tapped 3 times on the cellar door. Then I heard pounding on the front door. Boom, boom, boom. It opened a crack. I just couldn't open it any further. And they said, "We've heard rumors that someone is hiding Jews on this street." This is what the soldier said, pushing the door all the way open. I haven't heard any rumors," I said, trying to stop my voice from shaking. "When we find them, we will arrest everyone," warned the other soldier. Trembling, I closed the door. The soldiers were here, I said, when Mama and Papa returned. They're looking for hidden Jews. Oh, brave Annette, Papa hugged me. Our friends must leave tonight even though it is cloudy. How can we get them safely to the harbor? I thought about being afraid of the dark cellar and how the whispering voices guided me down the stairs. Can you imagine what it's like when you go somewhere dark? How do you find your way? Maybe someone whispers to you and helps you get there. Annette had an idea. Papa, what if people stood in the doorways of their houses and used their voices to guide our friends to their boat? Papa stood quietly, considering my idea. That just might work, he said. Help me to arrange it. And that really is pretty nice, because not all the time do moms and dads listen to the ideas that their boys and girls have. But this was an especially time when everybody's ideas were needed in order to help. So what did Annette do? Here's what she tells us. She says, I ran to the baker, the librarian, and the farmer to tell them about our plan. They agreed to help spread the word around the village. And of course, no one could tell the Nazi soldiers. This was a big secret. And these are all the people who had helped before: the baker, the librarian, and the farmer, and all the townspeople all over town. At midnight, in the middle of the night, Carl and his mama came up from the cellar. Carl pressed the heart-shaped stone into my hand and told me, remember me always, Annette. Wow, can you imagine having a treasure from, from your papa, from your father, from someone you love, and then you give it away to someone because you're so grateful for what they did to help you? That's what Carl did. And Annette held the heart against her own as Carl and his mama were safely leaving their cellar. After Carl and his mama slipped into the night, I leaned as far as I could out my bedroom window. I'm sure she wanted them to get away safely. I heard our neighbor whisper from his doorway, "This way," he said, guiding Carl and his mother toward the harbor. Then our neighbor's neighbor whispered, "This way." The whispers continued from neighbor to neighbor until Carl and his mama had safely reached the boat. I squeezed the stone in my hand and imagined them walking free on the beach in Sweden. And that's the end. We don't know for sure if they ever made it. But this is what happened when Annette and her mama and her papa took a big risk and saved Carl and his mama, letting them hide in the cellar until not only they, but the baker, the librarian, the farmer, and everyone in town could whisper to them, "This way," and get them safely to the boat, and we hope safely across to Sweden. For all of the horrible stories about the Holocaust and the millions of people who perished, there were not enough, but there were some good people who did like Annette and her papa and her mama and that whole town, and saved Jews, people who were hated just because of who they were, not because of anything they had done. So I encourage you at this time of the year during National Remembrance Week, when we're so excited about spring coming and things being beautiful and special things that might be happening. April school vacation is around the corner for many of us. By the time you see it, it might be all over, but anyway, it's a great time of the year for us. Take a few moments. Think about people whose lives long ago during the Holocaust, or even now in the many very difficult parts of the world, and even in our own country. And do your best to be a person who can help people who are hiding in the dark, who can whisper to them, "This way to safety." I'm sure you can do it, because each of us individually and all of us working together have the power and the strength to make that possible. Thank you.